Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Happy New Year, leaders, and welcome to the Weekly Roar. Today, I'm kicking off a brand new series called Leadership Reboot 2020. Start with you. But before we jump into that, I hope you all had a happy holiday season with family and friends filled with joy and peace. I'm Greg Storch. I'm the founder of Lion Enterprise, a leadership development and coaching business. I'm a certified professional coach and a certified leadership speaker and trainer. This year, I wanted to start things off by getting back to basics. I put together this 10-week series on doing a leadership reboot by starting to focus on ourselves as leaders first. They say the hardest person we'll ever lead is ourselves. So I wanted to just do a total reboot and focus on helping others develop themselves as leaders. And this week, I'm starting out by answering the question, what is leadership? Now, there's a lot of you that already know the answer, and one of my mentors, John Maxwell, is well known for his definition of leadership. He says that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So let's jump into today's Weekly Roar. Sometimes when I think about the word leadership, it scares me. It's such a powerful word because of the responsibility it holds with it. Being a leader isn't easy, yet it's a common word that everyone flings around like any other word. But today, I wanted to dive a little deeper into exactly what leadership really is. See, it wasn't that long ago that we didn't even focus really on leadership, right? We focused on management, and there's a big difference. But these days, you can even earn a degree in leadership. So it's becoming more and more mainstream. However, what exactly does leadership mean to you? How do you define leadership? And why the heck are we even talking about this? Well, simply put, it's because I believe that everything rises and falls on leadership. And taking the time to develop yourself as a leader allows you to contribute to making the world a better place. But even with all of the positive benefits we gain, the world can gain from leadership, why is it so many people don't get better at it? Well, a lot of it has to do with making assumptions. Do you see yourself as a leader? If so, then you probably didn't describe to any of these assumptions that I'm about to talk to. But for others that have not gotten better as a leader, it may be because they've fallen into that trap of believing something about leadership that just isn't true. One of the most common things people think is that leaders are born, not made. That's just not true. Okay, I'll give that to you. Maybe some people have certain gifts that make them better leaders or stronger leaders, but the point I'm trying to make is that we all have the potential within us, and leadership is something that can be cultivated and strengthened. The thing is, we just have to be willing to do the work. It's not just going to happen. Now, here's another assumption that trapped me at an early age because, well, I joined the military at 17 years old. You know, I actually see this one a lot, and that's the belief that leadership is bestowed upon us because of our position or our title. Now, I quickly learned that I didn't have to have that to be a good leader. I know a lot of people who are great leaders and they don't hold titles. And I also know a few who do hold titles and they aren't that good at leading. What is it about leadership that you believe. Have you ever fell into any of these traps about leadership that you have to be born to lead? I'd love to hear what you have to say about leadership in the comments below. If you want to share with us, just comment down below and share what you think. Thanks. Appreciate that. I have great news for all of you, regardless of where you think you fall on the leader spectrum, whether you're just starting out in leadership, it's not too late to get started to develop yourself as a leader. And if you're already on your leadership journey, like a lot of you, then maybe this will help you get even better than you are right now. Okay, leaders. So I answered the question already. What is leadership? The answer? It's influence. Leadership is influence. And that's what today is really all about. Influence. I mean, you can't be a leader if nobody's following you, right? You have to have followers to be a leader. So that's why having the ability to influence others is so important. Anyone who gets others to follow them is a leader. So leadership isn't about our ability to achieve certain positions. We already spoke about that. It's really about our ability to attract followers. So let's talk more about influence and how it works. This is probably one of the most important skills or most important abilities that we can develop as leaders. And that's why I'm starting off with it. First of all, there's 3 things that I want you to know about influence. And the first one is that everyone, and I mean everyone, influences someone. Not only that, but think about this. We not only influence others, but we are influenced by others. So we're both leaders and followers. So let me ask you this. Who's influencing you? Look around to find your influencers. They're the people who others tend to migrate towards. They're the ones who everyone else listens to when a decision needs to be made. And throughout our day, we can be influenced by all sorts of people depending on our interactions with others. We all have influence, but understanding our potential to lead is our responsibility. We've got to put in the work to do that and cultivate it. And if we put in the work, we can grow our influence. Now, the second thing I wanted you to know is that we don't always know who we influence or how much we influence. Influence is powerful, and we can understand its power by just thinking about a time when we've been touched by a person or an event. Now, there's one that comes to mind right away. Let me ask you this. What were you doing the morning of September 11th, 2001? Every one of you can describe in detail what was happening, what you were doing, and what you were feeling on that day. Now, what about a person in your life that has left a mark on you? Maybe that's a parent or a relative or a really great friend that did something or said something that changed your life or influenced how you think and act. The fact of the matter is, we're molded into the people we are today by the many influences we've had on our lives. If you take time to think about the little things in your life that have made a big impact on you, you'll see that it's an endless list of influence. We just never know who or how much we influence, and neither did those who influenced us. The last thing, the third thing I wanted to share about influence is the best thing you can do for yourself is to develop your influence. Why? Because if you ever want to accomplish anything in life, you're going to need others to help you do it. And the one sure way to do that is by having the ability to influence them. You'll have a better chance of accomplishing what it is you want to accomplish if others are willing to help you. Now, I was mentioning developing our influence, so I want to talk briefly about how we can do that in our leadership. Think of it as a roadmap or a progressive approach to influence. Now, the most basic level at which we can lead others is by virtue of the position we hold. That's the lowest rung on the ladder. You've probably heard of this before. It's called positional leadership. This basically is where other people will follow leaders based on their position or the title that they've been given because they have to follow them. At this level of leadership, influence over others hasn't really been developed fully. It's pretty much non-existent. People are just following you because you're the boss. See, the problem with this, other than the obvious, is that our influence is limited and our followers will only follow us as far as they have to. We can't get them to do much more than that. I experienced this when I was promoted from an enlisted sailor to an officer. Although I held the rank of an officer after my commission, I had very little influence over those I was leading. I was new. I was a junior officer. They only followed me because they had to, due to my rank. If they didn't follow my orders, they would be subject to discipline under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So that's why they were really following me. It had nothing to do with my influence or lack thereof. Real leadership, though, is more than having given authority with your position. It's about being the leader that others willingly follow. So it's good for us to understand the difference between position and influence. It's the same difference between being a boss and being a leader. For new leaders, a position is a good place to get started in leadership and starting to develop your influence. But it's definitely not the place new leaders want to stay once they've gotten there. Their objective is to keep developing their influence and moving up the ladder. Now, this next level, this one's based all on relationships. And it's about getting people to follow us when they don't have to. And this is called permission leadership. I'm experiencing that right now as the volunteer of the year at the USO here in Vicenza. You see, as the volunteer of the year, I kind of lead all of the other volunteers. They look to me to lead them because since I'm the volunteer of the year, they see me as this person who has been there, done that. But that's the thing. They're volunteers. They're here because they want to be, not because they have to be. And so getting people like that to follow me, well, that's what's achieved at this level. When people follow you and you can influence them when they don't have to do it. Have you heard of the saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care? Well, real influence starts with our hearts, not our heads. And it's nurtured through relationships, not regulations. Leaders who are successful at the permission level are the ones who focus their time and energy on the needs of others. And they're great connectors. They connect with their people. And I've talked a lot about the art of connection. Relationship building is critical to leadership development. As leaders, we have to be able to build and maintain solid and lasting relationships if we want to build solid, lasting leadership. As you connect with others, build relationships with them and earn their trust. That's how you'll develop real influence with them. Okay, now let's talk about the next level, the third level. This one's about proven results. This is the place where things actually get done. We accomplish things together and we produce results. And when the results are good, good things happen within the organizations. Margins are high, productivity's up, everybody's happy. It's interesting to note that people will tend to migrate here either towards those relationship builders, that last level I just spoke about, and results, this level. But really good leaders, they can combine the two and add results to their relationships, which results in a team of people who not only like working with each other, but they also get stuff done. And that is a very lethal combo to have. It's also gives them a reason to want to work with us and follow us as leaders. Okay, this next level, this is about developing people. I love this one. This one is what's known as the fourth level to maturing our influence. And it also helps us to become great leaders who accomplish more than just getting things done and producing results. You know, that's expected, of course, but this is the difference maker between a good leader and a great one. Leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others. This is so important because success isn't achieved without creating successors. A leader's main responsibility is to develop others, to help them reach their potential as a person, to become leaders themselves. That's what we're here to do. You know, I've talked to you a lot about when I was the program manager running a large IT contract at Department of Transportation in Washington, D.C. You know, when I took that job, I knew that I wouldn't stay in that position forever. I knew I'd probably promote and have to leave that agency and that contract. I not only wanted to find somebody who could take the reins from me, but I wanted somebody that could build upon what I had done. There it is, the results, right? And I wanted to help that person grow. Before I was even close to leaving that job, I found my replacement. You know, I was always told you should always work yourself out of a job, find that person who's going to take your place. So I started grooming one of the project managers, Steve, who showed potential to assume the role of program manager. Once I finally promoted to a corporate executive and I left that contract, I did promote Steve into my position and he did some amazing things for that contract. He had new ideas and better ways of doing things. He just needed the opportunity to learn and grow. And as the leader of that contract, it was my responsibility to give him those opportunities and see that potential in him and help him exploit them. And even though he didn't think he could do it, I always knew he could. He was one of the best program managers that contract ever had. The things about this level is that a lot of leaders, they don't focus on it. And some aren't even aware of it because they're so focused on their own growth, development, and success. You know, I'm sure you've seen it plenty of times. But a great leader focuses their attention on their people and helps them to develop and grow. I've talked many, many times about making that shift from being selfish to selfless. All right, now this final level, this final influence maturation is one that's solely based on the respect that we build over our lifetimes. It's where people follow you because of who you are and what you represent, what you stand for. This level isn't a given, and not many leaders even reach it. But those who have, You certainly know them. They're people like Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. But here's the thing. We can't stay too long focused on this last level because, well, as I said, it's based solely on respect. And if you know anything about respect, respect is just something we can't make or demand of others. That has to be freely given, and we don't control that. So my best advice to you is to consistently work at all the other levels, 1 through 4, and live a life that would garner the respect of others through being consistent and authentic. Here's a recap of those 5 R's that represent each progressive level of influence as you get more mature as a leader. That first level was based on really the rights, it's the position that you hold. People have to follow you. The second R was for relationships. At this level, you start building relationships and you connect with people. People follow you, but they don't have to follow you. The third R was results. When you start to perform and you're leading teams who are performing, and that's resulting in great things for the company. The fourth one is reproduction. It's when you shift your focus away from yourself and place it on the advancement of others, helping them to reach their full potential, creating the next generation of leaders. And then the fifth and final one, that was the one we just spoke about. And that last R stands for respect. That one's hard to achieve, and we don't focus on that level. We just live a life that's consistent with that and aligns with that. But we put our focus on the first 4 R's, the rights, the relationships, the results, and the reproduction, and maturing and growing and changing our focus from one level to the next and not staying stagnant in any of those levels at any given time. We're always looking to mature ourselves as leaders and grow our influence. And that's how you grow your influence. You got to know where you're at in your leadership and what level of influence you're exerting on people. Why are they following you? Once you know that, then you can start to think about how to start flexing the next level of influence. Say people are following you right now because you hold a position or you have a title in the company that makes you the boss and people have to. Well, naturally, the next thing you want to do is start to focus from there to building relationships with those people. That would bring you to the next level and it would start to expand your influence. There's a great example of keeping your eye on the next prize. Keep going up. Don't stay where you're at. The level you achieve is really more dependent on your influence than any other factor. And that's why I started with influence as the first skill or ability that I wanted to speak about in this new series. It is the most important factor a leader can have because, after all, leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. All we can do is develop our influence so that when opportunities come, we can make the best of them. And never underestimate the power of influence. All it takes is one influencer to change the entire world. That could be you. Okay, you guys, that does it for the first weekly roar of the new year. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm going to be back here next week speaking about more ways to reboot your leadership in 2020. Next week, I'm going to speak to you about the importance of developing the ability to prioritize as a leader. Until we meet again next Wednesday, remember, be powerful, but stay poised, just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.